I'm excited for this season of Rocket Motivation because my firm, Hand, Arundel, Harrison Sale, Attorneys at Law, where I am a partner, is our sponsor. We understand life and running a business can be challenging, but with the right support, it can also be incredibly rewarding. That's why we're thrilled to announce our partnership with Hand, Arundel, Harrison Sale.
There's not a sport in the world or anything in the world where you can fail 7 times out of 10 and keep your job. This is one of the only professions, if not the only, where you can fail 70% of the time and keep your job. So for me, going into my life now, I think it hardens you and it makes you understand that sometimes it doesn't work out like you think it should, or you may not get the chance you think you should. But the world doesn't stop. The sun comes up tomorrow. You got to wake up and you got to get after it again. But you can't let anything hold you down. You just got to keep on waking up and putting your best foot forward. And at the end of the day, be good to people, be kind to people, and things will work out.
Hey everyone, this is Rod Cate, and welcome to Rocket Motivation Podcast. This week's guest was a professional baseball player. In 2013, he was the 109th overall pick in the Major League Baseball draft, taken by the Colorado Rockies. He played at all levels of the minor leagues, mainly in AAA. In September 2016, he made his Major League debut, playing in a limited number of games, but hit .440 while in the bigs. He spent 2017 and 2018 back in AAA, and in 2020 realized it was time for a new career. He's now finishing his 3rd year of law school. He's going to tell you his story of the ups and downs of being a professional baseball player and the life lessons he's learned. Jordan Patterson, welcome to Rocket Motivation Podcast.
Man, I appreciate you having me.
All right. Well, man, I'm glad you're here. So, Jordan, do this. Tell us kind of where you are now in your life, kind of where you live, what you do, family, just kind of catch us up.
Born and raised in Mobile. Obviously, went to high school there, went to college there. Honestly, always lived there outside of my baseball career. Me and my wife live in Mobile. She is the assistant women's tennis coach at the University of South Alabama. So we live there, and I commute. I'm in law school in Montgomery at Jones in my 3rd year. So I commute back and forth. Like right now, I have class Monday through Wednesday, and I drive Sunday night, Monday morning, then come back Wednesday night and do it all over again. As of right now, my life's not very exciting. That's just kind of what I do week to week, and we figure it out.
All right. Well, but your life's about to be exciting because, so for full disclosure here, I want everybody to know Jordan has accepted a position as an associate lawyer at my firm, Hand, Arundel, Harrison Sale, and we're excited to have him coming in after he finishes law school and passes the bar. So, so Jordan, let's do this. Let's go back to 2013. All right, you finish your baseball career at the University of South Alabama. You're drafted in the 4th round by the Colorado Rockies. What's your mindset at that time? I mean, I would assume there's some excitement that, you're think about your career path, any goals you had. Just kind of take us through where you were at that point.
Yeah, so I won't bore you with the details, but how I got to South was kind of a crazy story. I was a 3-sport athlete in high school. Anyways, I come to South. I signed a week before school started. I was signed up to go to junior college in Mississippi. So I signed letter of intent literally on a Wednesday, was in orientation on Thursday, and was in school on Monday as a pitcher. And I asked them for the opportunity to hit. But it ended up working out where I came in as a freshman, hit, and I had never done baseball full time. I was always played football, basketball, and baseball. So obviously each season I was committed to that sport. So when I got to South, that was the first time I'd ever fully committed my mind and just everything to baseball. So I never thought about playing professional baseball. My goal was to play 4 years at the university and then go be a high school teacher and a coach. And then, I have a freshman year, do okay. And then I go off and play summer ball in the Hamptons, come back as a sophomore, have a decent year, go to the Cape, come back. And then that was the first time we're like, you know what, this could be a thing. And then my junior year, obviously scouts start coming. There's probably 15 to 25 every game, every BP that year. So then that's when it started becoming real. But to me, that was never, obviously it's every kid's dream, but in my head, it wasn't realistic until my sophomore, junior year. So I took it kind of day by day, and I enjoyed being with my teammates at South. I know that sounds cliche, but I really did. And then, come draft time, I had a decent year and got drafted. And so in my head, it was obviously a great opportunity. And I was so locked in to being a good player with my routine, everything, that it was like, yeah, this is great. What's next type thing. So I never, right or wrong, indifferent, me personally, never took the time to like, kind of take it and enjoy it. Which looking back, I wish I may have done a little bit more.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll take us through kind of your first 3 years. You get drafted. You start off in, I think, the rookie league, single A. Kind of take us through your first 3 years of the kind of the ups and downs of minor leagues, your accomplishments, your disappointments.
So you go into it, and obviously you go to college and pro ball, and it's a learning curve. It's just a different. You're playing every day because in college you play Friday through Sunday and on Tuesdays. So then you had the days off in between. In pro ball, you're playing every day. So it's 0 for 4, 4 for 4. You wake up the next day and you're expected to produce. So then you go to that first season, and it's 60, or the short season, it's 65 games, and it's more getting your feet wet, going into the next spring training full season. So the first short season, it was great. You get to meet people and you kind of get your feet wet. And then you go to spring training the next year, and that's when the first full season, which is at the time 142 games. And in 2014, that was in low A Asheville. And obviously, being a fourth rounder, and a college kid too, you're expected to produce more than high school kids. But for me, my first 2.5 months, man, I was hitting 205, striking out a ton. I was hard-headed just because of the path I'd been through and how I'd been taught. I believed in what I was doing, and I was very skeptical about listening to people that didn't know me. Now, was it right, wrong? That's just kind of how I'm wired. But then I kind of hit a hot streak halfway through the year and ended up having a decent year. So the next year in 15 was kind of really my year that kind of catapulted me into the next year's coming up, the 40-man roster, September call-up, all that stuff. In 15, I'd made a few swing adjustments in the offseason, felt really good about it. And then going into the season, I kind of hit the ground running. I was always usually a slow starter, but this particular season, I kind of hit the ground running, led all the minor leagues in extra base hits, was like some Baseball America first team all minor league, and went to the fall league that fall. And in that particular year, I was in high A Modesto for 3 months, and then went to double A in New Britain for the last 2 months of the year, and then went to the fall league in 15, which kind of catapulted me into 16, being in AAA. And that year was when had a decent year, was an all-star. That's your 40-man year. The years of service is different for high school and college kids. Anyways, college kids, after your fourth year, you can then be put on the 40-man roster. So that was kind of my timing, my year for that. So it all worked out. September call-up, 40-man roster, all the things you want to accomplish. Yeah.
Well, and so what's your mindset as you're working your way up? Rookie league, single A. Now you're in AAA, 40-man roster. I mean, you're so close that you can probably smell it. I mean, so what's your mindset here? I mean, you're up at the AAA. I know you want to be in the show. You want to be in the major leagues. So, I mean, where are you mentally on that?
Oof, man. I mean, now I'm going to try to give you a answer that, like, putting myself back in my shoes in 16 and not like the 31-year-old, a little bit older Jordan answer. But at that time, there's just so many things going on. Like, obviously your dreams to be a big leaguer, and when you get in those situations, you start to see other players and you're like, man, I'm just as good as these dudes. Like, I belong here. And then it's just a constant battle of taking a day-by-day process of not trying to forecast things you can't control. You're not the GM. You can't be the GM. They're making decisions that you don't even know what they're talking about. So that was, I tried to take it day by day. That's why I was so serious about and intentional about my routine. How as soon as I stepped up in the clubhouse at the field, I could basically I could account for every minute or hour once I got to the field. I could tell you basically everything I was going to do when I was going to do it. And that's kind of how my process was to keep me from worrying about things I couldn't control.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have a ton of things going on that you want answers to, or that you think you have answers to that you don't that you can't.
Right. And what do you mean by that?
Just because there's such a business aspect of it. You have other dudes you're competing with. You have dudes up top that are getting paid money that may not necessarily be playing well. You may be playing really well, but it's the timing and opportunity, and you may you have people saying, man, you should be in the big leagues. And you're like, well, I mean, I know, but you can't force that timing. So it's that constant battle of not being worried about the external things and the old cliche, Nick Saban, control what you control and like trust the process. It's a real thing. For me, it was more better for my mind that I was having a routine and all those things during the day, because it helps kind of turn away all the external bad thoughts that wouldn't be good for you.
Right. Well, and does it take a mental toll on you when you're like that, when you're right there, you're on the edge, you're playing as well or better than players in the major leagues. You believe that you're as good as some of them and you should be there, but you're not. I mean, what kind of a mental toll did that take on you?
Oof. Especially going into 17, because I debuted 16, did well in September. Walt Weiss was our manager. Eric Young Sr. was our first base coach. Ellis Burks was on the bench, and they loved me. Like they gave me some opportunities. And then coming 17, they hired a new guy, Buddy Black. Just difference of opinions. And then 17, I probably had my best year. And I told you before that I was on the 40-man roster. It was a free call-up. I had my best year, arguably better than other dudes that got called up. And I didn't get called up. And at the time, the Rockies were kind of rolling. They had Cargo and right, Blackman in center, Parra at left, Mark Reynolds and Desmond at first, Ryan McMahon, who's now the Rockies' third baseman, but he was playing first because Nolan was playing third. So you have all these dudes in front of you. And the hard mental part of it is that you did what you were supposed to do. You played hard. I played every day. I rarely came out of the lineup, and you still don't get rewarded, which is life. But that's the mental battle of you kind of feel isolated, because I was one of the only ones that didn't get called up. So then you kind of feel like the low man on the totem pole, kind of isolated. And that ripped me up.
Yeah. And what's the life lesson there? It sounds like a lot of it is, I mean, it's things that are beyond your control, because, a new manager comes in, you got certain people that players above you or that have signed, and they're paying them a lot of money, even though they might not be playing well. So here you are doing what you can do. It sounds like to me just circumstances have a lot to do with whether you're going to be in the big leagues and stay there. So from what you've been through, kind of what's your life lesson about that you can kind of tell the listeners and when they're struggling like that?
Absolutely. And another big thing for me in that period, was I salty? Yes. Was I mad? Yes. But it's also a chance for me to look in the mirror and say, what could you have done better? Like this isn't all their fault. This isn't. I mean, you could have done something better. The first two months of that season, I struggled. I could have played better. So, like, I have to be able to look in the mirror and say, did I do everything better than X? If you don't get what you want, then maybe you should have done better. Anyways, I tell people all the time, anybody that'll listen, there's not a sport in the world or anything in the world where you can fail 7 times out of 10 and keep your job. This is one of the only professions, if not the only, where you can fail 70% of the time and keep your job. So for me, going into my life now, I think the circumstances I've been through it hardens you and it makes you understand that sometimes it doesn't work out like you think it should, or you may not get the chance you think you should. But the world doesn't stop. The sun comes up tomorrow. You got to wake up and you got to get after it again. And then if it happens, it happens. But you can't let anything hold you down. You just got to keep on waking up and putting your best foot forward. And at the end of the day, be good to people, be kind to people, and things will work out.
I guess it had to have been really tough after you experienced. So you get called up in September 2016, and you're playing for the Colorado Rockies, not the AAA, but the pro team, or
Sure.
and you play well. You hit 444. It's not like you're going up there and striking out. So you're showing people you belong. And then the next season in 2017, you're back in AAA. I mean, how hard was that when you got the taste of where you wanted to be? And I would assume that you probably thought after that you probably deserved to be up there on the team for the 2017 year. But you're in AAA. I mean, how hard was that after having the touch or the taste of where you wanted to be?
Yeah, that wasn't too easy, because I go into 17, I feel good. I had a decent spring training, hit for some juice, had a good showing, was versatile, played right field, first base, did some versatile things. And then I told you before, I was the second to last cut. So it was like 2 or 3 days before camp broke. They were kind of seeing left-handed bat, right-handed bat off the bench. Like I wasn't going to be a starter. It was going to be more of kind of a platoon guy maybe. And we were left-handed heavy at that point. And they took a right-hander over me. They signed Mark Reynolds during spring training. So that was kind of the writing on the wall. And that was tough. I mean, that was just because I took it. I was so invested, and I was so I just took things personally, and I was hard headed. And then going in that meeting with the manager, the GM, the assistant GM, I mean, you had the president, Dick Monfort was in there, and them telling you that's a feeling you don't forget. And some feelings of heartbreak and stuff, you always I carry around that with me all the time, which is I think is good as a reminder of you just got to keep going.
Well, how do you deal with the heartbreak? I mean, your heartbreak was you thought you were good enough to be playing in the bigs, and they told you, well, you're going to be staying in AAA. Other people have different heartbreaks in their life. Based on what you've been through, what advice you give people on handling their heartbreaks?
Sure. I mean, when you put it in perspective, the average person was like, what do you mean you heartbreak? Like you're close to playing the big leagues. No one does that. Like, what do you get over it? But like anything, when you're so personally invested in something, and you have your heart, whatever it is, when things don't happen the way you envision them, there's going to be heartbreak and disappointment, which is, I think, just life. But for me, once again, it's you could do the right thing the right way, work the hardest, but doesn't necessarily guarantee that you're going to get the results you want. We can't determine that. We can't control that. So for me, it was use that drive and that anger the right way. Like still be a good teammate, still work hard. Like if they don't believe, if they don't think you can do it, do better. One of my low A coaches used to always tell me, Jordan, if you don't like it, play better. So that always stuck with me. Jordan, you can control it. Just play better. So for me, instead of doing anything external, grabbing onto things, it was like, you know what? Just keep on going, keep on showing up, be the same dude. And if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, everything's going to be all right.
Jordan, when did you first realize that, you needed a career change? I don't really want to say that it's just not going to work out for you because, and this is kind of something you said, most people don't get to play one game in the major leagues. And most people don't get to play seasons in AAA, which is just the next step. Mm-hmm. And so even though your career may not have worked out as you wanted it to, I mean, it was still a pretty dang good career. But when did you first realize that, all right, man, I'm going to need to move on to something new? I mean, when and what was it that caused you to think, all right, man, I got to move on?
Sure. I'd always told myself that I wasn't going to be the dude that just kept on playing the play. Like going to be an indie ball, just going to play until the freaking wheels fall off. That was never my mindset. My mindset was always, if there's dudes better than you, that's okay. The only thing I couldn't live with is if I didn't do everything or work as hard as I could have to make something happen. And I think I did. Did I do everything the right way? Absolutely not. But I do think that I worked or had the intent behind what I was doing. But in 19, I was in Buffalo in AAA and didn't have a good year. Going to the offseason of 20, I scratched and clawed to get me and my agent scratched and clawed to get a free agent deal somewhere. So I was in camp with the Cubs in 20, was having a good camp, knew some dudes. That winter, I played winter ball in the Dominican and had a good year, like a good winter. Led the team in hitting, had a good year, which I felt good about going into call it kind of a redemption year. Like, okay, I'm going to have a good year and kind of get back on track. And then COVID hit. They sent everybody home. That year, obviously, they had the alternate site and the big leagues. So that weeded out a ton of dudes like myself. And then going forward, they cut the draft in half to 20 rounds. And they cut, I'm ballparking here, but 55 to 60 teams. So guys like myself, older dudes, we call them 4A guys at AAA, kind of a fringe in between the big leagues. Some of those dudes got weeded out. Now, if I would have hit 280 with 25 and 90 and 19, I would have had a job, but I didn't. Once again, kind of looking yourself in the mirror and said, you could have controlled, you could have done something different. So then after that, I played indie ball for like 2 or 3 weeks during COVID, got banged up. And then I came home And I tell you what, man, I was pretty content. I was over the business side of it. The game ate me alive as far as the results and the mental. Like I'd wake up with pits in my stomach. It just ate me alive mentally. And I had my mind made up that I was going to get into college coaching. And I was hanging around South during COVID with the coaches that I still know. So it was kind of a, hey, it's time to kind of move on. And that's when I went back to South and finished my degree in 21 and kind of, at the time, thought I was going to be a college coach.
So why law school? What was it about you that you decided, man, I'm going to go to law school?
Sure. My dad, weirdly, has always told me since I was a kid, Jordan, I think you'd be like a good lawyer. And he's pretty conservative, like, hey, have a good career. It'll sustain for your family, so on and so forth. So I thought I was going to be a coach. My mentor, my hitting coach at South, he was in my wedding. He had always told me, Jordan, don't do it. Like, do not get into college coaching. It's not for a family. You work way too much. You travel all the time. You're never around. Don't do it. And I was like, oh, whatever. Like, I love coaching. I'm going to do it. And then in 21, when I was finishing my degree, I was GAing at South. I had the hitters, had the outfielders. And about halfway through being on the coach's side, I was like, man, I don't know if I want to do this. These dudes are gone all the time. They can be fired on a drop of a hat. Then you're moving from Mobile to who knows where. And I'd already lived out of a hotel and a car for the last 8 years. And I just didn't. I'm a family guy. Me and my wife were family people. My family's in Mobile. Her family's in Dothan. So in my head, I didn't want to look back when I was 50 and say, whew, what happened? Where did all it go? So I kind of made the decision that I needed to kind of turn pass. So I started talking to a couple of buddies that were lawyers. One buddy, really. I had no family that were lawyers, never been in a courtroom, never thought about the law besides Law and Order and like Perry Mason and Suits on TV.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Suits.
I've watched it twice. I mean, anyway, so I was like teeter-tottering with some LSAT stuff. And then one night in February, my wife was like, I'm sick of this. So it was like 9 o'clock. She got on, bought me a $1,200 LSAT class for test masters. And the next morning, I was in the South Library at like 7 a.m. figuring out this LSAT thing. So for the next, whatever it was, 3 months, it was LSAT practice, LSAT till like 10 or 11 o'clock. And then I took it in June, made a good enough score, got into Jones, and here we go.
All right. Jordan, I mean, looking back on it, going through everything, up to now, I mean, here you are, you're in your third year of law school. You've already got a job locked down when you're coming out. But, what have you learned about yourself through the baseball, where you are now? I mean, tell us about it.
Oh, man, this life, and it's full of experiences and lessons, and you meet people. That's the cool thing about baseball in general, but baseball is such a spider web of relationships. And you meet people like, hey, did you play with so-and-so? They're like, yeah, that's my boy. And then before you know it, you got friends that you would never. So that's the cool part about, like, do I miss playing baseball? I get that question all the time. No, not really. I really don't. Do I miss it as a job? Sure. But I do miss the relationships and your guys and being in a locker room every day. But through that part of my life, 7.5, 8 years, you learn things about yourself, and you learn things about adversity and how to overcome things, and that it's not the end of the world. But what you can control is how you wake up every day and how you handle your business and how you treat people and how you just operate day to day. Are you the same person every day? And that was truly, for me, when I look back and think about my teammates and stuff, all the whatever stats, accolades don't matter. For me, the biggest compliment I could ever receive is how they talked about me as a teammate. You could take away everything else. Having that makes everything worth it for me.
And why was that important? Why is that important about how they talk about you as a teammate?
For me, that shows character. That shows, because you're with these dudes more than you're with your family. I mean, you're with them from February hits in spring training every day until September. So we're talking about almost 7.5, 8 months. You're with these dudes every day. So the fact that someone that you're with every day, because I mean, how I was raised, it's you character, treat people the right way, respected and given is earned. For people to talk about you in that light just shows you that are we all full of faults, and do we do things we were sure? But it's almost rewarding to know that you were good to the people that you were around, and they do speak of you in a light that you're proud of. And I am proud of that. So then going into the law, I thought long and hard about it, and my passion is hitting in baseball. I love it. Like I think I'm good at it. There's not a room you could put me in that I wouldn't feel comfortable. I don't care if I'm in a room with Ted Witt, like I would feel comfortable talking hitting in baseball. And then now you go to the law, and that was a decision I had to make. I could have, hey, taken the easier route. Like, hey, I'm going to go give lessons. I'm going to open up a facility. I'm going to go coach high school. Hey, I'm going to get into pro ball, because that's what was easy for me. But I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to do something outside of baseball, because baseball is all I did, literally from 4 to 28. And I wanted to challenge myself because I knew I could do something else if I just put my mind to it. And, here I am in law school, and it's just been a challenge every day. Something I didn't go to school for 8 years. So now that you go to law school, it's like, man, you got to read, write, or do all this stuff every day. So it was a constant challenge of feeling uncomfortable. I feel uncomfortable all the time. Every time I talk law, every law room I'm in, I feel uncomfortable because that's not something I was comfortable doing. So it's a challenge, but me internally, I need challenges. I need something that I can look forward to and conquer. So that was, for me, the message. If I was to tell you shortly, I know that was kind of long-winded, but you truly can do what you want if you put your mind to it. I think sometimes people sell themselves short and say, I don't like to do this. I'm not good at this. I'm not good at that. I don't take that. If someone says I can't do something, I won't do something, I'm like, no, we're not doing that. Because you can, if you put your mind to it and truly dig into it, you can do it, or you can get dang close to doing it. So for me, that's what I've learned is if you really, truly want to do something and you believe, you can do it. You just got to stick your nose in it.
Right. And what advice would you give to people like navigating life's challenges, the ups and downs? I mean, based on what you've been through, what advice would you give to people that are, not in baseball, but are just, going through the normal ups and downs in life based upon what you've been through? What advice can you give them?
Sure. I mean, I feel like especially in today's world, there's a ton of external factors that can kind of pull you, social media and all these things, all these avenues that you can get kind of attached to. But for me, and I'm perfect by no means, but for me, it starts with the foundation of who you are. What do you believe in? For me, I'm a Christian guy. I believe in Jesus. I believe in God. So at the core of my foundation, that's the core of my foundation. Not only that, but how I was raised, how my parents raised me. So for me, when I'm struggling, I try to take a breath and think about it more internally, or from internal standard rather than external standards. And when I can do that, when I can kind of look in the mirror and slow down and understand what's going on and kind of get back to the roots of what I feel like makes me go, makes me operate, then it seems to be a little bit smoother, because there are things they're everywhere that can throw you off, give you anxiety, kind of speed you up. But for me, when I can go back to my roots, when I can go back to my foundation, family, the good book, my why, anything, that kind of centers me and kind of throttles me throughout the week, day, whatever it may be.
Gotcha. Well, Jordan, man, I want to thank you so much for coming on, because you got a great story, and you talk about dealing with adversity. I mean, although you still had a remarkable career, and to be able to do what you did for so many years and at that level is just phenomenal. But it's just it's just a great story, and I'm glad you are where you are now, because I'm looking forward to working in my law firm with me.
Absolutely.
But you're not off the hook yet, because I always give the guests the parting shot. So okay. Kind of reach down deep, Jordan, and give us some final words of advice, some wisdom, something you've learned from your life lessons to take us home.
To be honest, it really is like being present. It's a tough thing when you have bills and things to look ahead to, or anxieties to look ahead to. They're like, oh man, this is like kind of coming down the hill. But when you can be present and be aware of where you are, the people you're around, listening to the people you're around, like being present where you are, for me, it just makes everything kind of go away. And then you move on to the next thing and you're present again. And then you wake up and you have a plan and you're present with everything you do. You're intentional with everything you do. And for me, that blocks out the past and the future things we want to think about that give us anxiety or give us, whatever. For me, being present, whether I'm by myself or with a person, and being present with that person or with myself really helps me kind of conquer that moment in time, because you don't know how much time you get. And for me, I just want to take advantage of every moment I have with the people that I love and the people that I'm around, because you don't get that time back. At the end of the day, you have memories and you have things to look to and talk about with the people you love. And for me, that's what matters. I mean, you can give me all the money in the world. It wouldn't matter. Like the people I love and the people I enjoy being around and I want to share moments with, that's all I care about. End of the day, that's all I want.
All right, Jordan, that's a great way to end the show. Want to thank you for coming on, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
What a great episode with Jordan Patterson, living his dream of being a professional baseball player and then acknowledging when it was time to move on and how he handled that mentally. Just provides great life lessons. Tune in next week for another inspiring episode of Rocket Motivation Podcast. Thanks again for listening to Rocket Motivation. I want to again thank our sponsor, my law firm, Hand, Arundel, Harrison Self, with offices in Mobile, Birmingham, Fairhope, and Athens, Alabama, and Destin, Panama City Beach, and Santa Rosa Beach, Florida. We are uniquely situated among the Southeast major law firms to provide legal direction to clients throughout Alabama and Northwest Florida. So whether you're looking for legal advice, litigators, or simply a partner you can trust, Hand, Arundel, Harrison Sale is there for you. Thank you for listening, and be sure to check out Hand, Arundel, Harrison Sale for all your legal needs. Visit our website at handfirm.com. And if you would like to get my book, Get Back Up, it's available at Amazon. Just put in Get Back Up and my name, Rod Cate, and the book will pop up. I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe to Rocket Motivation wherever you listen to your podcasts. And please rate and review the shows and spread the word about Rocket Motivation to your friends. So until next time, remember, never give up and always get back up.